never take a decision based on one-sided information. Never take a decision or never come to a conclusion based on one-sided information, or never judge a matter based on one-sided information, or never look at life based on one-sided information. Never look at life based on one-sided information. Most of the evil that we have going on in our world today is primarily based on the fact that people look at the world, judge the world just from their own eye, just from the way they see the world, from their own spectacle, from their own specs, from their own, worldview. The danger of one worldview is enormous. When you begin to look at life, when you begin to look at people just based on one-sided information, it creates a lot of danger. It brings a lot of danger into it. For example, when I was growing up in Africa, let me start by saying this. Have you ever heard about Africans that perish in the Mediterranean Ocean trying to travel from Africa to Europe? Of course, you've heard about that. Many people have heard about, these ship and boats capsizing in the attempt of Africans, hundreds of Africans, tens of Africans, sometimes thousands of Africans, trying to travel from Africa, just trying to escape without visa, without license, without permission. So they go and take a primitively done boat and try to ride on that boat across the ocean, across the Mediterranean Ocean to Europe. And then most of them die. There have been a lot of tragic stories. Do you know why? Because I was just like them. When I was growing up in Africa, we had only one-sided information about Europe. But in the case of Europe, is more of overemphasizing the good life in Europe. But they were not telling us the other side of the story in Europe, that not everything in Europe is as rosy as it is presented. So to an average African man and to an average young man growing up in poverty-ridden country in Africa, they look towards Europe, they look at Europe as if it's a continent whereby where everything happens, where you just go and wake up in the morning and you have everything you need, where you just go down the street and pick as much money as you want, where you could just go and get a job, where you could just go and be able to afford yourself everything you want. They did not hear the other side of the story, that most countries of Europe, that up to 10 or 15% in some cases, even in some cases up to 20% of their population are without jobs. And that, in Europe, there are poor people as well. That in Europe, there are people who are homeless. That in Europe, there are alcoholics. That in Europe, there are people that are also poor. In fact, they don't even get to hear that there are some people in Africa that live better than in Europe. And we don't always hear that in the mass media. We don't always hear that in the CNNs of this world, that there are people in Africa who might be better off than people in Europe. And, for an African mindset, that is like mind-blowing. It cannot be. How can there be people in Africa who are living better than in Europe? You might think that maybe only Dangote or, only a few millionaires do. No, but some of us are actually happier in Africa than in Europe. So that is the problem that one-sided story creates, one-sided information creates. So the information that is being disseminated around among our young people in Africa is that Europe is a land of roses. It's like a promised land of old. It's like the land of Canaan of old, where honey and milk is flowing freely, and where everybody can just go and have their own share. But they have their own problems in Europe as well. If you hear the politicians in Brussels argue about how to fix Europe, you would think that their problems are even more severe than in Africa. If you hear the politicians in Downing Street in London, argue about the problems in England, you would think that, wow, they have so many problems that, they might never be able to come out of it. So, but when it is only one side story, only one side of the story, or one side of information that is sold to a people, to a whole continent, then the whole continent begin to live in despair. And even when they don't try to travel and on boats to Europe through Libya or Morocco, and they don't get to kill themselves that way, even the ones that are back in Africa, they are sitting down there thinking they are unfortunate, they are regretting about their lives, they are thinking they are living a bad life, they are living a depressed life, and they are thinking that, wow, they are so unfortunate that they are born Africans, or they are living in Africa, or that they are not in Europe. So even though they are not making attempts to run away, but at the slightest opportunity, they will be so willing to do that. They will be willing to run and leave their own country. But the other side of the story is that even people who are not rich in Africa, many of them are better off than in Europe. In the sense that if a lot of people who are not rich in Africa, or even the very poor in Africa, they are not in depression. That is another thing. We should also, people we don't hear about the press and the mass media talk about too much. Because when you talk about Europe, 40% of Europe, in the average, 40% of the whole of Europe is living in depression on a daily basis. In some countries of Europe, like the Scandinavian countries, their depression is up to 60% of the population suffering from one kind of depression or the other. Germany, France, England, all of them. Why are they drinking so much? Depression is eating up the heart of Europe. Living in Europe or having material things doesn't mean to be happy with life and doesn't mean to be satisfied. And that is another side of life that we should talk about, that we don't hear people talk about. That Africans are some of the most happy people in the world. They are some of the happiest people in the world. Not just because they have everything going on for them. No, on the opposite. They don't have too many things going on for them. They don't have things going on for them in the physical, but they have the environment of community, of being surrounded with positive relatives, distant relatives that carry the burden of each other, that they have the environment of Mary, of positive, of optimism, of they have an environment of celebrating people, celebrating each other, of trying to acknowledge people, of being grateful, of faith. So what do you prefer? Do you prefer a situation where you have your fridge, you have your furniture, you have your apartment, but you come to that apartment and you cannot sleep at night, or you come to that house and then you are weeping at night, or you come to that house and you have your fridge full of food and you cannot even eat it? But in Africa, where people don't have all these things, they have somehow been able to find their unity with their neighbors. They've been able to find the unity with their creator. They've been able to find unity with the nature, that they have been able to have more joy than people who are in Europe. So when we just say Africa is the dark continent and we're so unfortunate and we're, such a backward people, and that is just one side of the story, my dear. That yes, if you are talking about material wealth and all that, that could be true. But if you are also talking about inner satisfaction, a lot of them are much more satisfied. You can have, in America, in Europe, all over, people can have all these things, but they still need some liters of alcohol to make themselves happy. Why do you need to do that? In our country, when I tell people in this country that, in Nigeria, that I've only seen two drunkards in all my life, that I've only seen two people who are drunkards in all the 19. I only lived there for 19 years though, but in that 19 years I only knew two drunkards. And that people don't drink, that we don't have drunkards in the street every day like they have here. We have other problems. You have poverty. You have people in the street because they are poor, but you don't have people, in the street because they don't have anything to do. They're just drinking, and they have money, but they're just drinking themselves crazy. And you know what people tell me here in Europe? They say, we want to come and see such a country. How can we want to have a look at such a country where people don't drink, where people are not so depressed? Well, that is one thing. That's another news. We should be talking about the continent of Africa. Okay, let me talk about Mexico, because I'm talking about Africa now as if this poverty and one-sided story is only about Africa. No, one-sided story is ruining our world. Not just Africans are trying to escape their continent and run to Europe. Have you heard of Mexicans as well trying to cross the border? I mean, thanks to Mr. Trump, he has made that popular that, he's going to build a wall across the United States of America. You know why? So that Mexicans and other Hispanics and people from Latin American countries will not be able to run from their continent and to cross over to America. You know why people are trying to cross over? It's because they are thinking America is the land of promise. America is the land where there's honey and milk flowing, and that you don't need to struggle so much, and then you can go there and make a big life and make a big living for yourself. But on the other hand, what we don't get to hear about Mexico is that Mexico is not one of the poorest countries in the world. Mexico is actually in one of the top 10 countries in the world. Right now, Mexico is, I think, number 10 or number 8 in the list of the richest countries in the world. It's one of the biggest countries by GDP. But when you hear how people talk about Mexico in America, and when you hear about the way they talk about Mexicans in America, you will think as if Mexico is just another Africa, as if nothing good is happening there. Yes, people in America make more money than in Mexico, but things are not as bad in Mexico. But Mexicans cannot even believe this. If I was in Mexico myself, when I went to Mexico, I was so shocked. I was saying, so this country is as good as this, and people are treating it as if it is a totally run-down country where nothing works, that every Mexican wants to run away. I went to Mexico. I said, if I were living in this country, I would not even bother to go to America. I would rather live in Mexico than go to America. But because the people in Mexico, the young man of Mexico, they only hear one side of the story. They hear one-sided information about how life is in America. They don't know the reality of their own life as well. They only hear one-sided information about their country. They don't hear the good part of their country. So because of that, they want to run away from their countries and run back to America to make a living. They don't know that they could actually make a better living in Mexico, in their own country, than trying to run away. So what am I trying to say? That there is a danger when we just sell and we try to look at the world from one side of the equation. When there is a danger in one-sided information. Never you look at the world based on one-sided information. Never you judge people based on one-sided information. I remember this is so painful when I was growing up in Nigeria, and this everywhere. I was a short guy. Now people don't think I'm so short for some reason. Maybe because I was still growing up. I was not as tall, but I was pretty short. I was one of the shortest in my high school. And this is where you have kids from 12 to 17. And out of all even when I was in class 4 or 3 in the middle school, I was still one of the shortest. Maybe I was only taller than one little boy who was 10 or so, or 12. So, and they were calling me all kinds of names. And that name calling, just because the way they see me, they were calling me tuba, like a root of a tree, like thick. So, and because of that name calling, I thought I was good for nothing. I thought, I was despised and I was laughed at. I was ridiculed. And because of one-sided information, I never knew there was anything good in me. I never knew that I had brain. I never knew that I had something, that anything good was in me. I thought I was this ridiculed guy, the despised guy, that, I will just be the outcast of the society, that I will always be the one that the whole world laughs at. And maybe at worst, at best, I will be a manager, a messenger for some people, or I will be a gatekeeper or a gardener or a cleaner somewhere, because when people identify other people and we see other people only by one side of the story, when we only see one side of their lives, when we base our assessment of them only on one side information, we destroy people's lives. We ruin lives. We ruined our world. We make our world a worse place just by looking at people and judging them based on one-sided information. Let me tell you another way that I suffered from being one-sided. When I was in high school as well, and even from primary school, you will not believe this. If I tell you this story now, you will think this is not true, but it's true. It happened to me. It's the story of my life. Till, almost throughout my school years, I will always have the teachers do this to me. They will make their knuckles like this, their hands, they make it this way, and they say, "You are so dull, you are so dull, you are senseless, you don't have brain. What kind of Adelaja are you?" Because I come from an Adelaja family, and Adelajas are known to be brilliant and they are well educated, and that. So it will say, "You are so dull, you are so dull. We've never seen an Adelaja that is dull like you before." But you see, and there is a reason for it. Can you believe it that I was really so dull? At least that's what I was told. That's what I thought. I was so dull that I couldn't read. I was in school, primary school. I went to primary school since I was 6. But between that 6 and 10, I couldn't read. I mean, everybody started reading a few weeks after they went to school, but I couldn't just read. They taught me alphabets, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. I knew all that. I was saying that A, B, C, D, E, F. But when it comes to putting words together, I couldn't read. I couldn't just read. Let's say, for example, it was later on, I was only able to read after the age of 10. So I was in primary 4 and I couldn't read. They were promoting me one way or the other, and I couldn't read anything. I couldn't read in English. I couldn't read in Yoruba. I couldn't read in any language. I couldn't read. I could read alphabets. They made me to, because they had a song, they made me to cram that to memorize it, but I couldn't just get things together. It was just here, while I was here, maybe a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, that I discovered why I couldn't read. And this story will fascinate you, because my teachers and the people that surrounded me that time that were saying I was so dull, they were judging me by one-sided information. And they were trying to teach me by one-sided information. Let me tell you what. Today now, it is now a common fact and a known fact that people learn in different ways. So some people learn by what they see. Some people learn by hearing. Some people learn, by other way. But my own way of learning, I didn't know that. I only discovered that recently, is through critical thinking. And it's another way of learning. I've not even heard people talk about it. But I only discovered this about myself recently, that I learn only through critical thinking. I think not, I don't have conventional thinking. My mind does not work in a conventional way. Even if you have followed my ministry, if you have followed the way I've done my ministry and I've been doing my ministry, I'm just different. But these teachers couldn't believe that a kid could be different from the way they were reasoning. Okay, for example, if I see something written, let's say a word like house, H-O-U-S-E, a house, H-O-U-S-E. When they put a house, the picture of a house, for me to pronounce, and they say I should read ABC. I remember the ABC, and when they put the word house and said pronounce it house, I would not pronounce, because in my own case, I didn't like to just pronounce because the teacher said pronounce. I could pronounce, but I want to see why is it pronounced as house. I see H. Why did you say house? I can't see A, house. I can't see house there. I see H, I see O, I can't see A. And you say house, why is house? I can't see H here. I see H here, I see O, I can't see A. Where is it A? House. Where is it A? Where is it house? Why? But but at the end of this is E. And you have told me it is E. So it's supposed to be I'll see E. So, I was thinking a different way. So when they say it is house, you just have to pronounce it that way. I have a conflict in my mind because you had said A was A and E was E. So I thought I should pronounce it the way you taught me, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I thought, so when they say Papa, they would write the word Papa, for example, father, Papa. They say pronounce it Papa. I say, okay, I pronounce Papa, but I don't see the relationship between the alphabet you taught me and this Papa I'm pronouncing. Because the Papa you taught, what you are telling me to pronounce as Papa was not pronounced as A, because A was said, they called A, they didn't pronounce it as A, they call it A. So if you say it is A and you are now saying it is A, which one should I believe? In my critical mind, in my critical thinking, I'm saying it should be pay. If it is A, let's pronounce it as A. You told me it is A, so why should you call it A now? Why should you change the rule on me and call it A when it is A? So if it is A, B, C, this letter is A, and you are now pronouncing it as A. I can't understand. So, but I couldn't argue with them, and I couldn't explain the way I'm explaining now. But the only one-sided information, information they gave me and they gave out about me, the only one-sided way they looked at me is a dullard. You are a dullard. You are so dull. They would hit me in the head. And I couldn't pronounce. I couldn't read. They say, why can't you read? You are 7 years old. You are 6 years old. You are 8 years old. You are 10 years old. You are 9 years old. You can't read. Why can't you read? They kept on beating the hell out of me. But each time I tried to read what they're saying, I am remembering the alphabet they taught me, because they had been teaching me alphabet since I was 4. And I remember the alphabet A, B, C. So I wanted to read the way I was taught. I was said to read the way it was being written. It was taught to me as alphabet. But but let me tell you how that ended. So what that did to me is that once I eventually learned the rules of how to read, I became so meticulous in my reading that I learned to pronounce and to read every single word and every single word, to try to learn out. Even up to now, I'm still learning how to pronounce. So I try to read every single word. What that did to me is, later on in life, when I began to read, I so much enjoy reading that I couldn't read in a hurry, because, it takes me, I struggle to read, to read like they taught me to read. So I took time to read, and look how God used that for good. Because of my nature to try to critically look at it, critically, analyze every word. At the end of the day, each time I read a book, I've read that book. If I read a book that is 200 pages or 300 pages, I will tell you on what page what word is written. I will tell you what point they made in what page, what is written in what with all the point, all the summary of the book, including what is written on what page. Even not only just what is written on one page, I will tell you what is written on what paragraph or what page. So I became so meticulous because I couldn't read all this while, and reading was a challenge to me. So because of my way of thinking, they didn't know this was an advantage. My teachers never told me that, okay, this guy is not good in reading like this or even reading fast, but when he reads, he can tell you the whole book. So that made me to be one of the best students. So now it's still affecting my life. People are thinking, when people look at Nigeria, they see problems and everything. But I take my time to have critical thinking, and I come out with such solution that nobody is thinking about. Or like even this thing I'm talking about right now, if you listen to my messages or my lectures or my teachings or my preachings, you will see that they are normal. They are not the usual things you hear from everybody every day. You know the reason why? Everybody is just repeating the same thing. I lost interest. In fact, I don't even know who to listen to anymore. I don't even know who to learn from, especially pastors and things, because everybody is teaching the same thing. They are repeating themselves. Everybody is copying each other, or whatever they are saying is just what everybody already knows. And when people read the Bible, everybody is telling the same old story. But when I read the Bible, because of that, my critical, analytical thinking and way of studying, I see new things all the time. I see what other people are not talking about. And that's why all my messages are always like original. And people are always saying, wow, what kind of Bible do you read? Wow, what kind of information you have? But when I was a child and when I was in school, people were doing this to me. They were beating me up crazy. My family was beating me up because they were seeing and looking at me, assessing me on one-sided information. We shouldn't just say this is the only way to learn. We shouldn't just say if you cannot read, there are people who cannot read or write, who are illiterate up to now, and that doesn't mean they are not smart. That doesn't mean they're not intelligent. That doesn't mean that is all, that they are forgotten, that they are outcasts, or that they are failures. The fact that you cannot read or write, in fact, I will tell you a story. I read it in there. I even published it on my blog, and I published it on my Facebook. I read it in news, and even CNN covered it. There is a lady, they call her Nike, in Nigeria, who is now a lecturer at Harvard. And she didn't go to school. She's a lecturer in Harvard. She didn't learn to read and write early in life. And but you know what happened? She didn't go to school. She didn't learn to read and write. But she knows how to work with her hand. She knows how to paint material. So there is a coloring of clothing that we have in Yoruba land that is called, I think, Idere or something. Idare or something. I forgot. I've left Africa for 30 years. I think Idare, they call it. When they make, some ornament to come on white clothes. And so she's so good in that. And making ornaments in clothing. And as a result, she is now a lecturer because of that skill. She's teaching that the skill that she's got to people in Harvard. I mean, she didn't go to formal school, but doesn't mean she's not intelligent. So what I'm saying is that when we look at illiterate today, we say, Africa is illiterate. But that doesn't mean they are outcasts. That doesn't mean that they are not intelligent. That doesn't mean that they are bad. Oh, somebody just wrote that thing the lady does is called Adire. Yes, Adire, I think so. So, how do we look at illiterates? Do you look at illiterates back in your village and say, oh, these were illiterate, and you write them off, and you just, put a cross on them, you just write them off. But that is a mistake. Because it's just like me when I was growing up in that school. Who could ever tell that all the bright students, they were saying who could read, who could do everything right, the way the teachers they wanted it, that they are nobody now. And I am the one that has become somebody in life. Because sometimes when you are different from others, it doesn't mean it's bad. When you are looking at the world differently, it doesn't necessarily mean bad. It could be your advantage. That might be your strength. In my own situation, the fact that I couldn't read and follow rules like every other person, it became my advantage. So maybe you are having children like that you are suffering, that you are struggling with, that don't quite, fall in place like all other children, or they don't quite behave like you have expected. Maybe they have their own unique way of thinking, of their own perception of life, and you think, what is this problem with my child? Well, maybe it's their uniqueness, and maybe that uniqueness is what God is going to use to glorify them. In my own case, my own unique way of thinking, of looking at the world, what became my own unique way that God used to glorify me. And those things are helping me now because they help me to be meticulous. They help me to pay attention to details. They help me to be able to come up with ingenuity. Everything about me is about ingenuity. And that is just because of that thing that my teachers could not identify. And they were saying that I was a dullard. And so how do you look at poor people? I think as Africans, and if you're an African that is watching me, you must have suffered from that. When I come out, even here in Ukraine, when I go everywhere, the first thing people look at me as a black person, black. And the attitude is, we need to help him. Either I'm a refugee, or I'm poor, or we are just Africans that need help. But when people begin to discover that I'm not just another regular African that needs help, that this African is the one that is teaching them, that is teaching their people, it blows their mind. That this is African that is leading the largest crowd of white Caucasian people in the world. I'm leading 99% of white Caucasians in the world. And the only African that is living like the only Barack Obama is another person that is leading a large number of white Caucasian people. And people can't believe it. How is that possible? Well, because don't think that because I'm black that I'm not good for anything. Don't think that because I'm African that nothing good can come out of Africa. No, that is the danger. That is the problem when we look at the world and judge people by one-sided information. So, but that is on a larger scale. But all of us sometimes do that. We judge other people on one-sided information and on one-sided information, on one-sided worldview. Even look at the way we are talking about Muslims. A lot of people today, they cannot even look at Muslims. A lot of people today, they cannot look at Arab people because we are thinking, oh, Arabs are terrorists. Arabs are killers. Arabs are ISIS. Arabs are Al-Qaeda. Muslims are this. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You think about it. What about if you have been born in a Muslim family? What about if you had been born in Syria or you have been born in Iraq or Iran? You wouldn't have any option. You will just be who your parents have taught you to be. You will think that is the way the whole world is seeing the world. You see, so we shouldn't be in a hurry to put a mark on people and say, you are just this and that. So if we see some Muslims, we shouldn't just think they are all terrorists. So that there's injustice when we begin to look at the world one-sided. When we begin to judge people just on one-sided information. My own family, for example, when because of Africa, I'm coming from Africa. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much about Africa today. I know there are people here who are not Africans, but sorry for that. It's just this is just one pain that I've carried all my life. Yeah, because I grew up in a poor family. And even me, growing up in that poor family, I bought into the story, into the idea of one-sided information. Because in my country, the one-sided information that is ruling that whole country, and not just that country, I think any country in the world, is that if you are poor, you are nobody. If you are poor, you are finished. If you lose your value if you are poor. If you are poor, you are not as valuable. If you are poor, you are not respected. If you are poor, that is, if you don't have material, but if you don't have money, they say you are poor. But that is a wrong definition of poverty. Because the person that is poor is not the person that doesn't have money. There are a lot of people that don't have money that are even poorer than people there are a lot of people that have money, that have millions, that are even poorer than those who don't have money at all. You could have money but be poor in your mind. You could have money but be poor in your character. You could have money but be poor in your morals. You could have money but be poor in your values. But the real poverty is the poverty of the mind. The real poverty is the poverty of character. Real poverty is the poverty of values. And that is what people are not talking about. We don't hear that part of the other side of the information. We only hear one-sided information. That if your family is poor, if you are poor, finish. It's just finished with you. You are nobody. You cannot become anything. You cannot amount to anything. So because I was growing up in a poor village and in a poor family, I thought nothing good will ever come out of me. Nothing good will ever come out of my family. I thought that I'm rich enough. I'm not good enough. I cannot compete. I cannot, talk to people. I cannot go to respected places because everybody was chasing me away from where I went to. Because I was poor. And the whole world is being ruined because we treat other people this way. We look down at people, we think because they are poor, they are not good for anything. And we make them outcasts. But I that was poor, look at me today. I had other things in me. I didn't know that. You could be poor but still be talented. You could be poor but still be gifted by God. So we should be looking at other things. We should be looking at the other side of the story. There is always a two side to a story. There is always a second side to a coin. There is no matter how poor somebody is, there is something good about them. There is no matter how disadvantaged people are, there is another side to their life. There is always the second side to a medal. There is always a second side to a coin. So now I'm looking at Africa and everybody say I don't want to go back there because people are poor. They don't want to go back there because people are poor. And I'm beginning to look at the poor people and look at their skills, like that Nike lady that had a skill, had a gift, had a talent in her, and now she's teaching in what? In Harvard. That also, in our country we have three major tribes. We have the Yorubas, we have the Igbos, we have the Hausas. We have there is this particular group of people, the second largest, no, I think they're the third largest group of people in our country, the Igbos, they are called. They are so gifted, and many of them, especially the traders, the Igbo traders, they are renowned, they are everywhere. People say there is no way you will go without finding Igbo traders. If you go to any country and you don't find Igbo traders, you don't find Igbos there, it means you have to run away from that country. It means there are no living being there. Igbos are so enterprising. They are so good. But most of them are not educated. Most of them didn't go to university. Most of them don't have a higher education. In fact, some of them might not even have finished their secondary school. Or most of them just go for training or trade training or apprenticeship. And they didn't go to school. But even though they didn't go to school, let me tell you something about the Igbos. The Igbos, not just the Igbos, the elite, but I'm talking about the traders. They control 70% of the commerce in our country, Nigeria. We're a country of 170 million people, and these guys who are majorly, not too highly educated, they might not have university education, but they are good in something. Why should you look at them because they didn't go to university? Why should we look at them because they are traders? Look at their skills. Look at their ambition. These traders are some of the most ambitious people you will ever meet in the world. And they are some of the most tenacious people you ever meet in the world. They are some of the most energetic, industrious people you ever meet in the world. So why should you look at these people because they are ordinary traders? Don't call them ordinary. Look at their skills. Look at their ingenuity. Look at their commerce. Look at their ambition. Look at their, their industry. Look at their industriousness. Look at how passionate they are. Look at how zealous they are. You need to respect them for that. You need to value them for that. You need to, give them credit for that. But what we normally do, common trader, disgrace, they are shame. Well, that is the problem we have when we look at the word one-sided. When, don't look at your word. Don't look at the word by one side, based on one-sided information is the title of this message. Don't judge cases. Don't judge people based on one-sided information. Don't just look at the appearance of people and judge them. That's why I have trained myself. I will work on myself every day not to be like that anymore. Because I've suffered from it. I've suffered from it. And my people suffer from it all the time. Black people suffer from this all the time. Africans suffer from this all the time. Even in my own church here, where I have white people, 99% white people, they respect me because I'm Pastor Sunday. But to my other black people, they don't. It's not always the same attitude. For example, I have churches in America, and these churches are white churches, but most of them are white that are coming from the former Soviet Union. One day, I arrived in Seattle, Washington, and these are businessmen, and they are members of my church, but it's a white church, 100% white church. And they came to meet me and took me from the airport, and they were taking me from DC and then to the DC airport and taking me to the church. And so they were telling me stories of what was happening in America. And you know what they were telling me? They were telling me that, Pastor Sunday, you are so different. Thank God for you. You are such a gift to us. But blacks in America, black people in America, they are scums. I said, why? They said, what we have a saying among ourselves. These white people are saying, we have a saying among ourselves that, abortion should only be allowed in America for black women because they are giving back to scums. They are giving back to criminals, and they are giving back to gangsters, and things like that. This is, the conversation they have among themselves, but they think they are having an open conversation with me and joking about it, and they forget that while they are talking about black people, even though there are black people in America, and they are praising me, they are thinking that, I am the hero, I am the, but where they are saying that the abortion should only be allowed for black women because they are giving birth to criminals. They don't know they are talking to me. They are offending me. They are destroying my people. So then they go around and say, because all the crime in America is being committed by black people. That is the way we look at black people. And that, America should be returned. You know why? I'm sorry, but I think most of the people who are supporting Trump, maybe not most of them, but some people who are supporting Donald Trump in America, a lot of white people who are supporting Donald Trump, I'm sorry to say, many of them think that America must be returned back to America, to the way America used to be. And the way they're thinking is because black people and other people should be put back in their place, and America should be white. And this is not just in America. This is the same thing in England. They don't give the best job to the black people. And because that's the way they treat us, because one-sided information. I'm not a racist, I'm living among white people. My drivers are white. My cooks are white. My, house helps are white. My everybody around me is white. My pastors are white. My assistants are white. So I'm not being racist here, I'm just saying this is something we must change. It's not just about black or white or something, but about women as well. A lot of people look down at women. I celebrate women. You ask anybody in my church, do ask anybody that knows me, they will tell you that Pastor Sunday celebrates women. And I know pastors who tell me that women cannot be senior pastors. Can you believe that? That women cannot be senior pastors? Why? Because she has breast or because she has womb? Is that what makes her worse? Is her brain inferior to our brain? Why can a woman be president of countries, a woman be prime minister, a woman can be an engineer, a woman can be a doctor, but she cannot be a senior pastor? Hey, are you kidding me? What? How do you understand that? A woman cannot be pastor. And then some pastors, I'm talking about pastors everywhere. I'm talking about pastors in Africa, pastors in Europe, pastors in America. Then some of my pastor friends says, where do you believe? Because in my church, I said, I am not going to tolerate that rubbish. And in our ministry here, in the Embassy of God, we have 50% of all our pastors are men, and 50% of all our pastors are women. 50% are senior pastors, our senior pastors are men, and 50% are women senior pastors. My council, my apostolic council is 50% men, 50% women. I will not buy into that rubbish that women cannot be allowed to be pastors, women cannot be allowed to be senior pastors. You joking? I have a wife. She's smarter than myself. I have 2 children, 2 girls. They are smarter than me. And you say they cannot be anything because they are women? Are you kidding me? I'm sorry for that, but one-sided information. We shouldn't be looking at our world one-sided. We shouldn't look at the world one-sided. And that's why in the family as well, I believe that family union is not a union. Everybody says, the husband is the head of the family. Yes, I agree. That's what the Bible says. But what does it mean to be the head of the family? The Bible says for you to be the head, you must be the tail. For you to be first, you must be last. Whoever wants to be the head must be the least. So in my own understanding of a husband or a man being the head of the family means that I must be the servant of the family. I must be the one that is serving the family. If I'm want to be the head, I must be the servant of all. That's what the Bible says. If I want to be the first, I must be the last. So being the head doesn't mean I'm ruling it over my wife, or I'm running it, or I'm lording it over the lady. No, if I'm the wife, it means I take all the responsibility upon myself. It means I take a bag, I take a coat, I open the door for her. I view her as a weaker vessel. I see myself as a stronger man, and I do everything for her. I make sure that I make the money for her. I take all responsibility of myself. I don't need to make her to go and do all the hard work because I'm the head. I serve my family. I serve my children. I serve my wife. I serve my partner. That is what it means to be the head. Not to oppress her, not to make her worse or inferior. No, that's not the way I look at it. That's not the way I understand it today. Well, the point I'm trying to make is that we shouldn't be using one-sided information to judge people. On many of us too, we use sin to be the one-sided information we use to judge people. I was a part of this because I bought into what everybody was doing. I used to call people gay. I used to call people homosexuals before too. But today, because of what I know, I don't call people gay anymore. I don't refer to people as homosexuals anymore. You know why? Because that is also one-sided information. Why is it one-sided? Because it is wrong to call a whole human being and give them an identity based on their sexuality. How can I just give him, someone who is a man, because he has a problem with his sexuality, he's living in sin and is a gay, and then because he has that sexual issue and being a gay, so I should now be blind to the fact that it might be a father or somebody's son, or it might be a good specialist, or it might be a good engineer, a good worker, it might be a millionaire, it might be a successful person, it might be someone that is exceptional in other areas of his life. But when I go and call him gay, I have reduced him to only one identity. I have reduced him only to one story. I have reduced him only to one-sided information. I have killed every other identity about him. I have killed his achievement that he has. I have already destroyed his reputation that he has worked out all his life to have. I have reduced his success, him being a good child or a good son to his father or to his son, to his parents. I have reduced it to just one thing, gay. I have reduced his brain to only one thing, sexuality, gay. I have reduced his kindness, his generosity, any good thing about him. I have reduced everything to one word, gay. So I made my own decision that I will never refer to any human being as gay anymore. It's just like the same thing like with me or you. If you have an issue, let's say you lie. Will you like anybody to be calling you and just forget about your name and just be saying, that's a liar going, a liar? Or you have an issue with lust. Oh, that's a lustful person going. Every one of us has our own issues. Every one of us had our own issue, or we see our own issues that what we struggle with. Or maybe you struggle with your sexuality, you have girlfriends or boyfriends, or you have any problem. Doesn't matter what problem you have. And you want to be that everybody should forget about the good about you and just be calling you by the bad thing that you've done. Would you like to be identified and be branded by the bad thing you do, by the evil thing that is about you? And every one of us, there is something negative that somebody can find. Would you like to be identified and just to be branded by that single information? Don't brand people by one-sided information. Don't look at life by one-sided information. Just like with Muslims, just like with gay, just like with other people, and the same thing with even people in our churches or people who are even unbelievers. I have also come to the conclusion that I would not be looking at unbelievers in a hostile way. That these are unbelievers. Just wipe them out. Just forget about them. No, they are non-believers. The way we look at unbelievers sometimes is like we are condemning them already. How can you condemn people that God has not condemned? Jesus said that even unbelievers, he said there are other folks who are not of this folk. There are other sheep who are not of this folk who are supposed to come in. And even Jesus, when he looked at them, he looked at unbelievers, he said he had compassion on them because he said they were like sheep without shepherd. So he didn't just use one information that because they are unbelievers, they must be condemned. That sometimes is the way we look at unbelievers in our cities. That is sometimes the way we look at unbelievers in our country. Then how do we expect them to come and join us? Because we already put a demarcation. We already separated ourselves from them. We already locked them out. We already condemned them as unbelievers. How do we then expect them to come and join us? So instead of looking at people as unbelievers, I would rather look at them as sheep who are lost that need to come back to the fold. And that Jesus said he had compassion. We should rather be having compassion on people who have not gone to know the Lord. We shouldn't be using their sin or their lifestyle to judge them and to just condemn them right now. Christianity is much more complex than we're thinking. But the problem of one-sided information, nobody likes to be branded like that. Like I told you my story, how I was, one-sided information almost ruined my life. And the same thing with you. You could remember something about your life when one-sided information almost ruined your life. So one-sided information, we don't like it to be applied to us. Then why do we apply it to other people? If you don't want one-sided information to be applied to you, if you don't want people to judge you by one-sided information, don't judge other people by one-sided information too. If you don't want other people to look at you and just one-sided said, this is who you are, don't do that to others as well. And there is another scripture that tells us a very good story about one-sided information. We should always look at the other side. We should always hear the other side. Everything changes when you hear the other side of the story. You remember the story about Solomon. Solomon was regarded as smart and as a wise king, and the epitome of his wisdom was when he decided not to look at a case one-sided. You remember when the lady came to him and said that was his child and that was her child, and that the other lady stole the child. Thank God that Solomon was smart enough to look at the other side of that story. When Solomon decided to listen to the other lady, he discovered that no, thank God he didn't just listen to the one side. Because he listened to these two sides, he was able to take the right decision. And that is one of the hallmarks of the life and ministry of Solomon, because he listened to the other side. When we consider the other side of the story, when we listen to the other side, it makes us wise. We become wise when we consider the other side of the story. We become wise when we, even criminals, even people who are already condemned in the court of law, we should still try to hear their own story. We should still try to listen to them. We should still try to understand people's arguments, or why people become who they became, why people are who they are, or why people behave the way they behave. Try to listen to the other side of the story. Never take a decision based on one-sided information. Never relate to people based on one-sided information. Never look at the world based on one-sided information. Never condemn people based on one-sided information. Never judge people based on one-sided information. I have another example for you. You remember there's this president in Africa that is called Mugabe. Mugabe. What's his first name again? Mugabe. What's his name? He's the president of Zimbabwe. Yeah, and everybody laughs at this man. They laugh at him and say Mugabe, or he wanted to kill the farmers, or he was taking, because we are all relating to Mugabe according to the news report we hear from BBC, Reuters, CNN, and all these people. They have painted the picture of that man as if he's a demon, as if he's the worst president, as if he's the most foolish president in the world, as if he's the Robert, yes, thank you, Victor, Robert Mugabe. So we all paint a picture of Robert Mugabe as if he's the most stupid person, as if he's not smart at all, as if he's so foolish, as if he's not, it's as if he's crazy, as if how could he even be a president? But recent research has shown that Robert Mugabe is the smartest of all presidents. He's the most educated, at least. That man is the most educated. So because he's not reasoning the way the West wants him to reason, just because he's not thinking the same way our mass media and everybody, so it has been sold to all of us that Robert Mugabe is a crazy man. But really, maybe he's not crazy. He just has his own way of looking at the world. He has a different concept. He has his own passion. And we don't even bother to listen to his own story. And because Robert Mugabe doesn't have the media power of the Western world, the BBCs, the CNN, he doesn't have the same ability to be able to sell his own side of the story. And the whole world is just judging him by one-sided story. And that is another example, you see. That's another example of one-sided story that we the mistake we made by judging people and by looking at the world by one-sided story. The same thing happened with Jesus, you know. You remember the story when people were condemning Jesus for accepting Mary Magdalene? Because Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. And in that society, they only judge people by one-sided information. They were judging Mary Magdalene by the fact that she's a prostitute. And so because she's a prostitute, finished. Her life is finished. She's not allowed to move close to a man. She's not allowed to be accepted in the society. She's not permitted to come to, public meetings. So when this lady who was already judged by one-sided information that she was a prostitute, nobody knows that she's a loving lady. Nobody wants to care that she has a heart, a loving heart. Nobody cares that she's grateful. She's a grateful person. Nobody wants to care that she is even having more out of gratitude than all of them that think they are good. She's even have a more heart of benevolence than every other person in that city or in that town or in that meeting. So when she came and Jesus accepted her, everybody was so shocked. They were actually criticizing Jesus. Why should you allow that lady to come to you? Don't you know who she is? We know who she is. She's a prostitute. You see, they have put a stigma on her. They have put a stigma on her. And people put stigma on people that way. We put stigma on people because we think that, because we are judging them by the one-sided information that we have. And thank God for Jesus. Jesus defended her. Jesus stood in her defense. And Jesus said, you didn't give me a water. You didn't do what she has done. She has qualities, even though she was a prostitute, but she has qualities in her that you people don't have. And, I forgave you people also your sins, but you are not coming to say thank you. She was forgiving her sins, and she has come to express her gratitude, which you have not done. She has qualities. Everybody that we are trying to judge or look down on or think of by one-sided information, there is the other side of them. Everybody has another side of them. Everybody has another side to them. The same thing with Jesus' mother. You see, when she was pregnant without a husband, and how do we respond also to people today who are pregnant without a husband? Somebody got pregnant, a single mother, we know the way we respect the single mothers. We know the way we respect the people who don't have, who have made a mistake in their lives. And the mother of Jesus was almost fell into that category. She was almost condemned. She was almost thrown out of her matrimonial home, even by her husband. It took an angel to convince the husband Joseph not to throw her out because she was pregnant without a husband. You see, it's a stigma. So we put stigma on people when we base our judgment on them on one-sided information. Whenever you look at the world by one-sided information, you put stigma on people. We stigmatize people. We stereotype people. We are stereotyping people, stigmatizing people just because we look at them by one-sided information. So my appeal to you all today is, before you judge, before you come to conclusion about anybody, about anything, about any information you hear, if you hear anything in the newspaper, if you hear anything on the television, before you come to conclusion about the person, look for the other side of the story. Look for the other side of the story. Look, hear the other side. Be like Solomon. Hear the second side. There is always two sides to a story. There is always two sides to a coin. There is always two sides to an event. Don't look at the world. Don't look at Africa only one-sided. Don't look at black people only one-sided. Don't look at women just one-sided. Look at the world in a different way. Don't just keep on stereotyping yourself or people. Let's make the world a better place. Don't make our world even worse because of our worldview, because of the way we look at the world.